Hello again, and welcome back to Marketing with Purpose. My name is Monica Pitts, and today I am here to make a public service announcement about Google Analytics. So, many of you guys know what Google Analytics is, but for those of you who do not know what Google Analytics is, it is a free tracking system that you can put a piece of code in your website, and Google will track what people do on your site so that you can make more informed marketing decisions and learn how to make your website better. It's a very, very valuable tool. I've been using it since 2005. I have taken courses in it. I can't say that I would consider myself like the end-all, be-all Google Analytics expert, but man, I make it my business to love on some Google Analytics. Like, I'm always looking at it for clients and for ourselves because it tells me so much of what I need to know to improve and get better results for people's marketing. And they're changing it, like big time changing it. And I'm kind of freaking out more than just a little bit because we just installed it on our new website, and I gotta tell you, I only kind of know what everything means right now, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to go take another course in it. Am I gonna be able to figure this out? I'm gonna have to redo all the reports. So, in this podcast, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna explain to you what I mean by it's changing. I'm gonna tell you how that might or might not affect you, and what you need to do to make sure that you still have data moving forward to look at to make marketing decisions with. All right, so that's what we're doing. And with that, let's get to business.
If you're a natural-born marketer, you're one lucky son of a gun. If you're like most people, marketing, especially online marketing, is about as appealing as standing in a police lineup. The May Create team of creatives has transformed websites and digital marketing from craptastic to fantastic since 2005. Our podcast, Marketing with Purpose, makes sense of marketing so you can make purposeful decisions instead of carrying on with the same old crap you've been doing. And now your host, Monica Pitts, founder of May Create, with another episode on how to make your marketing not suck.
My friend and me, Google, keeps emailing me about how stuff is changing, and I just feel like I need to tell you about it because my greatest fear is that people don't pay attention to this email, or maybe it gets stuck in their junk mail, or maybe they just don't get into their Google Analytics very often. And then by the time that they realize that this change has taken place, it's too late and they don't have what they need. Okay. So what am I even talking about? I'm talking about the next generation of Google Analytics. Yeah, so basically for the longest time, we've been using Universal Analytics, and it's been a great system, and it tells us all kinds of stuff. The challenge is that it uses cookies to tell us all kinds of stuff, and people are feeling not so good about cookies anymore. They were feeling okay about cookies, and then now they're not. And that's why we have all these different privacy policies in place and also privacy acts to keep our data safer. And so Google is going to move away from cookies. All right. So if you want to know more about what cookies are and how they might impact you, you can go way back to the beginning of our podcast where I say, what is all this cookie business? And I go way in depth in it. But that is one of the major factors that I believe is spurring the change of Google Analytics. So Universal Analytics is going to stop processing data on July 1st, 2023. Okay? I'm going to say it again. July 1st, 2023, Universal Analytics will stop processing data. All right. So now you know the deadline, but here's the deal. We don't know how long your account's going to be over there, and we don't know how long you're going to have access to it. And as marketers, we like to look at data comparatively. And so if you're not tracking using the new system, you won't have any comparative data. Yeah. So there's an answer to that, though, and I'll get to it in a minute. So what do I mean by it's changing? I mean, they're switching over to this thing that they're calling Google Analytics 4. Okay, and here's the other thing. It's not like you just go in and you like check a box. You have to create like a whole new account in Google Analytics. So you'll have your old Google Analytics account that's Universal Analytics, and then you'll have your new Google Analytics account that's Google Analytics 4 when all is said and done. And hopefully it'll be sooner than later. So that way you can track with both of them. And you can safely track with both in your website simultaneously at the same time, so that whenever they stop processing data on July 1st, 2023, you'll actually still have data to look at because you've been tracking it in two places. All right. So they say it's going to be great. They do. I read about it and it just seems like blah, blah, blah. You know, when the Peanuts characters are sitting and the teacher's like, wah, 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 wah. That is how I feel most of the time when I read stuff on the support.google.com website. And I deal with this crap all the time. So that's why I'm telling you about it, because I'm telling you, if I deal with it all the time, how could anybody really be expected to understand what's going on out here? Wah, wah, wah. So ultimately, they're trying to create something that's going to be a better tracking system that doesn't make people use cookies to track user behavior on the websites. Because what happened after all the privacy policies, and I shouldn't just say privacy policies, the privacy acts came down and the laws went in place, is that people had to opt in to have their behavior tracked on a website, which for some websites that get tons and tons of traffic, that wasn't as big of a deal because they still had plenty of data and they could make some decisions. But I'm telling you, data from people who allow you to track their behavior versus data from people who don't allow you to track their behavior is way different. It's way different because the people who allow you to track their behavior are usually people that actually know you. And so their behavior is super favorable most of the time. You look at what they've done on your site and they are like model customers, right? You're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. I'm doing a great job with my marketing. Everything is so awesome. But why don't I have any leads coming in? Well, it's because now you don't know what to do because you only have part of your data set, like a very small piece of it. Also, though, so I started that comment by saying for people who had lots and lots of visitors, they still had user data to compare and like better understand and improve their website with. But then the people who only have, say, 1,000 visitors a month or even less, I mean, some businesses only have a few hundred visitors a month. They might only have 1,200 visitors a year. And then only like 10 of them opt into tracking. And you're looking at the super small pool of data, which makes it really difficult to make a decision. So now Google is trying to put together, and they are putting together this new system, this Google Analytics 4, which is supposed to give marketers a more complete understanding of the customer journey across devices. I don't know what that means. That sounds like they're going to track people across devices, which would make sense because apparently you can register your app and your website and whatever else, whatever web properties you have, and you can put them all into one Google Analytics 4 property, and it's supposed to tell you how people behave across the board. Okay, so that could be kind of cool if you have all those things. It is also supposed to be more future-proof, which means it's supposed to allow them to optimize the system so you can use it longer without them having to change it completely, like what they're doing right now, because it is completely different. Yeah, and it's also supposed to use like artificial intelligence to fill in the gaps of what people are doing on your website. Yes, that's what it's supposed to do. And it's supposed to do it through their own user interface. You're supposed to be able to do some of the things that you used to have to be much smarter to do. There you go. You're supposed to be able to do things easier to track user behaviors, like to customize your Google Analytics experience. Does anybody else feel like I'm the Peanuts teacher right now? Like, wah, 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 wah. I'm like, okay, okay, I'll get over this. I will get over it. You guys can tell that I'm frustrated right now because I'm like, why do you have to do this? My brain is hurting. Okay. So that's the deal. New Google Analytics starting July 1st, 2023. So who really needs to worry about this? Well, if you're used to using Universal Analytics, you probably need to worry about it because you're going to have to figure out how to read the new set of data. That it just is what it is. Everything's called something different. Nothing lives in the same place. Some of it's kind of intuitive, but a lot of it seems kind of empty right now. I'm just going to have to keep looking at it. Like I said, probably take a class or two to really get to the bottom of how to use it to report and get what I need to know to make marketing decisions. Those of you who have a brand new website and have never looked at the Universal Analytics reports and don't even know how they work, you're not going to know any different. If you have recently set up your Google Analytics for your website and you have a new account, meaning you don't have data that goes back years and years, you have a new account, so you don't have any past data, you already have a Google Analytics 4 property because that's what it is now. If you set up a new one, you're getting Google Analytics 4. If you set up your property, like if you set up your Google Analytics account prior to October 14th, 2020, you probably have a Universal Analytics property. So that's a lot of us that have been tracking for a long time. But even those of you who set it up more recently, you had a choice and you may not have done the new property. Okay. How do you know whether or not you have Universal Analytics or Google Analytics? Well, there's a few ways that you can check. One is that you can look at your ID. If you're really sneaky, you can look at the source code of your website and find your Google Analytics tag and look at the number there. And if you're not sneaky like that, then you can just log into your Google Analytics account and then up in the My Account, so if you click on Accounts and then click on My Account, underneath the name of your property will be a number. If that number starts with UA, then it is a Universal Analytics property. If it doesn't start with UA, then it's a Google Analytics 4 property. And once again, the magic date is October 14th, 2020. If you created your property before October 14th, 2020, you probably have a Universal Analytics property. And if you created it after October 14th, 2020, then you're likely using a Google Analytics 4 property already. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're looking at the view of your analytics from the Google Analytics 4 view with all those reports. You could still be looking at the old reports, not the new reports. I know it doesn't make any sense, but you can opt over to look at them. Okay. Also, if when you log into Google Analytics and you look at the top of your browser, there will be a blue bar up there if you have Universal Analytics, and it'll be like, hey, here's the deal. You got to flip it back over to this new thing or else you're not going to have any data in the long run. And that's super fun. And by the way, that bar can also be red. Like if they apparently are very concerned about you, it might be a red bar telling you about the situation. So find out what kind of Google Analytics you have. If it turns out you have Universal Analytics, what do you need to do? All right, so here's what you need to do. You have to create a second property. Yeah, so it can be underneath the same username, but it's going to be a second property within your Google Analytics account. And then you're going to track for that property on your website simultaneously with the tracking of your old property. Because here's the deal. When you create the new property, it has no past data in it. They're not like migrating your information over. It doesn't even track the same. The information, if you look at one versus the other, they're not the same because they're using different methods to collect data and report data. Yeah, I know. Wah, wah, wah. Okay, so they're going to be different. So for the time being, you're going to have two pieces of Google Analytics tracking code in your site. You're going to have your Google Analytics 4 and your Universal Analytics both on your website tracking data simultaneously. So that way, when you move into the future, you'll have past data that you can compare against in your new account. And right now, you have new data to compare against in your old account. Yay! And then once they stop tracking altogether in the old account, you'll be totally fine. Clear as mud. And then in between now and then, you can figure out how to use the new account. Yeah, so that way you're not completely blindsided and have no idea how to operate it. It's perfect. Totally awesome. And I would totally go into how to use it right now, but I don't really know how to use the new account. I just know that I did the right thing and I installed both pieces of tracking code and I created a new property for Google Analytics 4, and that future Monica will figure out what all of those stupid reports and words mean, because right now they just don't mean as much to me at all. And that's where I'm at with it. Okay, so that is my public service announcement. Google's changing. They're hoping they're creating something better. It's going to be better for the end user because it's going to protect our privacy. It's supposed to be more streamlined. They have magical fairies that are going to tell us how people are acting in a more seamless way through their buying journey on our site, apparently, called artificial intelligence. And right now, you just got to figure out if you've got Google Analytics 4 or if you have Universal Analytics. And if you have Universal Analytics, then you're going to create a second profile. I call it a profile. It's not a profile. It's a second property within your Google Analytics account. So that way you can use both and track both. Because friends, July 1st, 2023 is going to feel like it's right around the corner, and then you're not going to have any data and things are going to be really, really, really sad. Okay, that's all. That is all I have to say. All right, so if you enjoyed this podcast or if you learned a thing or two, please leave us a review, because that is how we help people solve problems. We have to meet them before we can help them solve their problems. So if you leave me a review, then that means I can meet more awesome people just like you and bring solutions to the forefront to help them solve marketing challenges. And until next time, go forth and market with purpose.
Thanks again for listening to Marketing with Purpose. Head over to mayecreate.com, MAYECREATE.com. Yeah, you heard me right, MAYECreate.com, for podcast notes and more resources to grow your business. Don't let your marketing suck. Get your pride on. Market with purpose.